Hello everyone, I'm Jacob, Community Manager with Paradox Studio Black. Whether you're a veteran player or just discovering us for the first time, we are thrilled to have you here for a first look at what the future holds for our game with Chapter 4. In today's video, you'll see the story trailer for the first piece of content coming in Chapter 4. Then we'll talk with one of the developers who are helping to bring that vision to life. After that, we'll explore more of what Chapter 4 has to offer with our major expansion, as well as some of the other large updates that players can expect to come this year. Be sure to stay until the end for a note on how you can get your questions answered in an upcoming Q&A session. This chapter is our most ambitious yet, improving your experience in the medieval era with deeper systems, brand new mechanics, and fresh content that capture the excitement and intrigue of medieval life. Now, without further ado, here's the story trailer for our upcoming core expansion, Khans of the Steppe.
The grass beneath our feet has turned brown and withered. The rivers, parched and lifeless, faded to dust. And so, we ride westward to lands green with promise. No ink upon parchment can tame the storm that rides with us. No wall of stone nor iron gate can withstand the might of my horde. Under my banner, the whole world will crumble, and from its ashes, a new one will rise.
Khans of the Steppe releases on April 28th, so be sure to mark your calendars for it. Now, I'd like to introduce Veronica, one of the talented game designers working at the studio, to tell us more about some of the features being crafted for this core expansion.
Hello, my name is Veronica Pathos. I'm a game designer on the upcoming DLC Khans of the Steppe, and today we're going to be talking about the main features coming with this update. At the core of Khans of the Steppe lies the nomadic government type. This new government type is heavily inspired by the nomadic rulers of the Great Steppe and places a heavy emphasis on might, herd, and land. Nomads don't stay in one place as sedentary rulers do, but they travel across the map together with their herd. They extract fertility of the land within the Great Steppe and grow their forces. However, fertility is finite, and if they want to continue growing, they will have to migrate. Migration can be done via peaceful means by convincing an amenable shepherd to lend their lands to you, or via warfare, by taking the lands forcefully for another nomadic ruler. Your horse and cattle are represented by a new currency called herd, only available to nomads. This currency plays a very important role to their lives, as they represent how they're viewed by other rulers and can be used in multiple ways like bribing, scheming, and even used as dowry. With the intention of growing their herd, nomadic rulers will constantly migrate if they're small. However, there are other options for bigger rulers like kings and emperors. This will obtain most of their herd through tributaries, establishing their rule all over the realm. One of the bigger changes to nomadic rulers is that they do not use levies, but instead use herd that can be transformed into horde riders, a new type of very basic manga terms. In the steppe, might makes right. Nomadic rulers have access to dominance, a fixed scale that increases with their power. Low dominance represents smaller chieftains, whereas those that reach the highest dominance will be able to become Genghis Khan. Life in the steppe is not easy, and pasturing is at the mercy of the elements. Seasons change in each region, affecting the fertility and other parameters of each. For example, a white suit will cover the land with a layer of snow, making it almost impossible to graze. However, a more moderate and warm weather offers the perfect climate for pasturing, making nomads able to grow their herd even more. Thanks for being with us, and we really hope that you enjoy the next DLC.
Our team has been working incredibly hard to ensure that this DLC captures the experience of the lifestyle of the nomadic peoples in the Great Steppe, and your feedback has been a big part of that. You might remember our preview dev diary from a few weeks ago. We asked for your thoughts, and we've already made changes to the content based on your feedback, particularly by making tributaries available to more governments than just the nomadic one, as well as making changes to the nomadic economy itself. There are even more refinements we haven't shown yet, and we'll be going over them in developer diaries releasing every Tuesday from now until the release of Khans of the Steppe on April 28th. Now, we've still got plenty left to cover coming up in Chapter 4, so let's move on to the next piece of content, an event pack we're calling Coronations. In the medieval world, a coronation was more than just a ceremony. It was a turning point for any aspiring ruler. Being crowned isn't simply about wearing a fancy hat. It represents the moment when earthly authority and divine authority converge, granting legitimacy and a true right to rule to any monarch. With this event pack, we've introduced a new activity type to let you experience this event firsthand. While the content of the Coronations event pack is still under early development, our intent is for these events to test your diplomatic skill, your relationship with the church, and maybe even your coffers. The goal with the Coronations event pack is simple: to make it feel like you've truly earned your crown. Every decision in your coronation influences how your vassals, allies, and everyone else will perceive your rule going forward. Plan it wisely, because the outcome of this ceremony can echo throughout the entirety of your reign and beyond. So far, we've covered the new nomadic government and cons of the steppe and explored the ceremony of coronations. But our journey through Chapter 4 isn't over yet. Let's hand things over to our game director, Alexander Oltner, as well as one of our programmers, Don, to talk about what's coming up in the major expansion for Chapter 4.
Now, for the major expansion of the chapter, as you might have figured out, we will be going east and complete the map of Crusader Kings 3 by adding Asia. All of it. All Under Heaven, as the expansion is named, adds all of East Asia, from the celestial government of the Chinese Empire to the wildly different governing forms in Japan and Korea, and the god kings of the archipelago in Indonesia. Of course, Asia will be full of unique faiths and cultures and buildings and everything else, making playing there a vastly different experience from playing in Europe or anywhere else on the map. Our philosophy when making expansions like these is that they should follow a logical pattern, and roads to power led up to this moment, with the celestial government being inspired by the administration that we introduced previously. Tours and tournaments introduced travel, which enabled us to have landless rulers in administrative realms, which allows us, in turn, to have the Chinese Empire represented in a truly unique way. I will now briefly hand over the word to Dan Brockhoff, a developer on the team, responsible for a large area of All Under Heaven.
Hello, my name is Dan. I'm a developer on Crusader Kings. So, China is special in our era. It is prominent, it is large, it's powerful. So we decided that we should introduce a new tier of title, the hegemony. This represents the way that China influences everyone around them and is a leading point in this part of the world. Another cool feature that we have in China is what we call the dynastic cycle. This represents how the mandate of heaven is lost and gained. This cycle represents chaotic eras, stable eras. This process, you will at one point have enough around you and you will claim the mandate of heaven, and the people will know that you are the right dynasty to continue the glory of the Chinese Empire. We call the type of government for China the celestial government, which is like an administrative government but has some additional features, one of which is the treasury. The imperial treasury is money that flows upwards towards the emperor and that he can spend wisely or unwisely. The Empire of China, of course, will face some challenges, and you will make sure that China survives in an intact and prosperous state, behind your great walls and with great armies and great generals. All Under Heaven is our biggest expansion yet, and I hope you'll like what we're doing with it.
We hope you enjoyed this glimpse into the scope and depth of All Under Heaven. Getting this expansion right is incredibly important to us at Studio Black. We don't want to present a strictly Eurocentric or outsider's perspective on the history of the cultures we're depicting in All Under Heaven, which is why we've been collaborating with historians as well as prominent members of our existing Chinese community from the very earliest stages of All Under Heaven's development. This approach helps us ensure that the content is not only fun to play, but historically accurate and respectful to the cultures and societies that are covered in the new areas of the game. While we don't have a specific release date for All Under Heaven yet, developer diaries are expected to begin shortly after the release of Cons of the Steppe, with the first dev diary tentatively scheduled for early in May. While Chapter 4 brings a lot of new exciting content to the game, we also believe it's important to refine and reiterate upon the mechanics that already exist in the game. That's why we're rolling out a substantial update to Crusader Kings 3, the 1.15 Crown update. The Crown update revamps the court position system, making the interface sleeker and more intuitive. It also introduces a new way to handle vacated court positions, either prompting you to seek a new candidate or automatically selecting a new candidate based on your choices for that specific court position. We've also added an option to automate your own armies, allowing the AI to take control of your armies while you focus on other aspects of realm management. We're also including a way to tell what an AI-controlled army is actively doing, making it far easier to determine what your ally strategy is at any given moment. Most notably, we've tweaked our Crusade AI to ensure they properly muster their forces before launching an assault, resulting in them invading as a coherent force. On top of that, we've implemented more than 100 bug fixes, as well as numerous minor improvements and tweaks across the board. The 1.15 Crown update is available for free to all owners of Crusader Kings 3 on PC, Mac, and Linux, and is available right now. So download it and tell us what you think. Finally, we have a little extra for those of you eager to dive into what Chapter 4 has to offer right now. Our instant unlock, Crowns of the World. You buy the Chapter 4 bundle, you will immediately gain access to a wide variety of crowns and turbans inspired by cultures across the map. Whether your domain stretches across mainland Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa, you are sure to find a piece of headwear that fits your style, and you will gain access to it as soon as you buy the Chapter 4 bundle. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We've given you just a brief glimpse at Khan of the Steppes, All Under Heaven, as well as Coronations. The free 1.15 Crown update and the Chapter 4 bundle itself are both available right now. So if you're eager to get started with Chapter 4, be sure to check them out on Steam and the Microsoft Store. And remember, you will immediately receive access to Crowns of the World, as well as all of the other content coming in Chapter 4 as soon as it's available. Thank you again for watching, and we hope you're as excited as we are for what's on the horizon in Crusader Kings 3. We know you probably have a ton of feedback after everything we've shown today, and we'll be collecting your questions over the next week across all of our social media platforms, which you can find linked in the description of the video below. On the 26th, we'll release a special Q&A video where we answer as many of your questions as we can, so be sure to let us know what's on your mind. We truly believe that building and maintaining strong communication with our player base is essential to making Crusader Kings 3 the best possible game it can be. Your feedback is a big part of making this happen, so please, keep it coming.